Yeah.
You pair of shoes with good grips.
Just from Limerick.
Now this man I should know.
Seamus Cassidy.
Seamus, how are you? Patricia. Robin she'll take to the stage in the Kavanagh in the years to come.
That's great. That's great.
An introduction.
Yeah.
Duffy.
Father Larry's another brother. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Brother. And then my next door neighbour.
Good morning.
Is
You're joining us.
How are you?
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
Hello.
It's a hard morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a bit sideways trying to drive, isn't
That's
it?
it. Fool, which was an autobiographical account of Kavanagh's life. Patrick, as you know, was born in Inniskeen in 1904, and he would frequently visit Carrickmacross, especially on market days. So we're starting here outside the Valley Lodge, and around here this was the scene of the Ass Fair. Carrickmacross, he describes it as a town of 3 streets and many unnamed lanes. In fact, they all have names, but he wasn't aware of the names probably. But the Ass Fair and Donkey Fair was held in this area here. And the plaque on the wall over here, we'll go over to it, commemorates an incident that happened. The first stop on the trail is actually out at the roundabout, and it's called the Heels of Carrick. Because when Kavanagh would be approaching the town, he would see this magnificent spire sticking up from the drumlins like a paling post, he described it. Now the deal is reference to an overheard conversation. I sold cheap. I overheard the woman say to her son afterwards. Ah well, the son replied, I overheard the saying that you were better to be sorry for selling than sorry for not selling.
That was very true.
Yeah, as I said, around here was the Donkey and Ass Fair.
Old chief, well that's very good.
Many of the dealers came from the neighbouring town of Crossmaglen, and he describes them in the Green Fool. The ass dealers were dark breed of men who wore mufflers and carried blackthorn sticks and spoke an ancient language. And if they were around today, they definitely had to wear mufflers. Now we'll move on, and we're going over to visit the church. We're going in here to see a Station of the Cross. They were painted by Richard King, who was manager of the Harry Clark Studios. Richard was very political, and he makes a political statement in one of the stations. If you look here at this station here, you notice the face of the persecutors of Christ. If you look carefully at the one on the left, as you look at it, it's the face of Stalin. Richard King painted Stalin into that one. He was making a statement there. He saw the communists as persecutors of Christ. Modern day persecutors of Christ. The beautiful windows here are Harry Clark stained glass windows. And there's a fine collection of Harry Clark windows here in the church. That's Stalin. Yeah.
I never even noticed it.
He was the priest who finished off the church and put the spire on it. You can. Cross Lane Horse Fair. Of all the mare's faults, she was a kicker. She kicked the stars out of the sky. She is the queen of kicking mares. And that was reference was made last night by Eileen Battersby in her talk. She mentioned the kicking mare. Now, this, as I said, was where the horse fair was held. And at the end of this lane, there's a very steep hill. And the nickname on that hill is Horse Hill. And it was used to test the wind of the horses. If you were selling a horse or buying a horse, you wanted to make sure you were buying an animal with sound wind. So if you ran it up and down that hill, it was a good test. The auctioneer was an expert at slow motion hammering. For fully 5 minutes he held the hammer within an inch of the spook. Are you all done? He said at last. Silence, silence, silence. Then tap, the hammer had fallen. The bad habits and faults of horses are kept very quiet. Say nothing till you get rid of her was the guiding principle. And Kavanagh, of course,
wasn't it the very same as in our part of the
as soon as they bought the horse, people began to remark on all its faults. It was splayed, and the back was gone, and somebody said she was bought 6 years after the Boer War, so she was about 28 when she was bought. We'll now proceed to the scene of Mary Dooley's eating house. Now in the Green Fool, Patrick's describing this is what he had to say. A great plateful of greasy water in which floated a piece of steak resembling the old sole of a boot that was softening in bog water. So he wasn't too enthusiastic about the piece of meat he got. Now here we are at the corner of the three streets here, Main Street, Church Street, Castle Street, New Street. And the hiring fair. It was custom for young people, young men and women, hire themselves out, usually for 6 months, to work as farm labourers or servants. The stand was that part of the sidewalk at the junction of Carrick's 3 streets, where the hiring fair was held. On one side of the street the boys stood, with their faces towards the workhouse. On the other side, the girls stood with their backs to the bank. And a saying among them was, you had the security, you're stiff with the bank to your back, the girls would say, and the men would say, there's nothing in front of us but the workhouse. There was tough times. They were as young as 10 or 12 years of age. They would hire themselves out. And if they were lucky, they got to work with a kind farmer. But more often than not, they met someone who was going to get the most out of them for the least amount. And if they could find some excuse to get them to leave before their time was up, they didn't get paid.
Oh, yeah.
Good. One of the first buildings they put up was a market house. Yeah. Hard to read that one, it's down too low. Yeah. Life and death. The fresh winds of youth blew through the files, it says here, the flyers I think it should say, of carts in the little town, and moments big as years were mine to squander, while the clock and the Protestant church counted out the miserly minutes of an adult world. The carts, there's a beautiful picture in the Lawrence collection showing all the carts lined up here, and they were covered over, either if they had animals in it, or they had a cover on it to keep the sun off the wheels. Because if the sun got on the wheels, the wood would dry out, shrink, and the iron hoop would come off. So he's referring to this, and he's also talking about how he enjoyed coming in here to the market as a young man. He had no worries. We'd go down by the castle. This plaque here is commemorating an early piece of work that Patrick Kavanagh, it's from his juvenilia, and it refers to a man called Trench. William Stuart Trench was land agent, a notorious land agent. He served on the Shirley estate and on the Bath estate before and after the famine. He came here just before the famine to work on the Shirley estate. On his very first day in Carrickmacross, he was hauled by a mob out to the castle of Lough Fay, which is 3 miles outside the town, because they wanted a rebate in their rents. As shadows of the trenches great pass slowly through the convent gate, those haters of the Celtic race who live to see their own disgrace, and live to see a convent grand beneath the roof whereas oft they planned destruction for the weak and small, who dared to break the landlord's thrall. When by the cruel agent led, he flung the sick from off their bed, and threw the cabins o'er their head, and cared not how the sick or old found shelter from the winter's cold. But God has moved a wondrous change, and nothing gets beyond its range, and even they, with all their might, have faded like the shades of night. Yeah. Shevlin's, the central bar, was a favourite spot for Patrick Kavanagh when he was waiting for the bus. He'd go in there to Tom Shevlin and he'd sit and talk to Tom's aunts. Mary Reid was hired here. Now, who was Mary Reid, you might well ask? She was a young girl from the workhouse, but back in the 1880s or 70s was hired by my great-great-grandfather. And she took the shilling, but when he came to collect her that evening, she was gone. Yeah. Now, we're here at McNally's, and there's another plaque inside, I think, as well, and there's also 2 plaques at the Valley Lodge. But this is called the Marian Men, and it's a conversation that was overheard. Some of them be hard, yeah. As I said to you earlier, the town was divided up into sections for the fairs and markets. The pork market, the hay market, and this was the fowl market here in front of us. It's also called the Bridewell. It's the 19th century, 1870s or something.
Quite advanced then, wasn't
and I'd like to finish off, and you were great to listen to me prattling on for so long, but we'll come over here and have a look at this plaque. The literary trail was officially opened on the 24th of May 2004 by Rosanna Davison, Christobog's daughter, Miss World. Your brave souls come out on this hardy morning. Yeah, so that's okay. Thanks. And we have to be careful now walking around, but yeah.